Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is Guitar Hero 3245, bringing you some Go Fish commentary today. Now you may ask, why Go Fish? But Go Fish is actually one of my favorite games, and it's very competitive too. Many people don't understand, and I believe that that's why there's such a lack of a Go Fish community on YouTube. So today I brought my friend Cam, who I'm playing in this.
Hey, how's it going?
He's gonna help me commentate this. Now, I had a very strong opening hand and a very strong opening play. I mean, you can never really predict what your opponent has, but again, we're just going to try to break it down as best as we can for you. So I start off with Queen right here. What are you thinking right now, Cam?
Well, on the first turn, if you get a general lead of only one or two pairs in the first hand, you shouldn't be too worried. It's easy to come back. But if you get in too deep, if they get a good 4 or 5 pairs in the first turn, there's not much chance of a comeback. But right now, I'm still thinking I can make a good, decent comeback.
Alright, so basically, we're going to break the game of Go Fish down for you into a simplified state. I mean, many people think that maybe like Go Fish is a simple game, but there's very, very, very many levels of thinking that you can imply to help you win. And the first thing we like to do is break it down into 3 parts. The beginning stages are what we're going through right now. The beginning stages generally consist of just making your combos and getting them together. The middle stages are where you really try to get through it, and the middle stages can last very, very long periods of time depending on how lucky you get. And the ending stages is a very simplified state of the game, again, because you're generally down to a lot of cards and able to do math to pretty much figure out what's left in the deck. So Cam, what are some mid-game strategies we can apply? Because as you see, we're coming down to the mid-game part of it.
Well, at the mid game, there's still chances for turnaround and comebacks, especially if it's a close game. But usually, as in this game, you had gotten a big lead early on. In mid game, you basically can tell what's going on and who's going to generally win. And in this state, it's pretty obvious that I'm falling very far behind.
Yeah, and in a time like this, you have to understand that there's a lot of prediction level to this game. And generally what I try to do is if they make something called a double call, I know that they're weak, and I know that I like to capitalize at that point. And if you don't know what a double call is in Go Fish, a double call is when they call the same card 2 turns in a row, meaning that they either want to draw, showing that they think they have a weak hand and that they don't have much on you, or that they're just dumb and they forgot. So, I mean, there will be a lot of terminology to go over. But, Cam, what do you do when you see that a player is double calling you?
A double call, a double call is usually, you just want, if they keep double calling, there's a really almost 100% chance they have that card. If there is any chance that they don't at all. So with the double call, you just want to just try and get that card, because they're probably just gonna keep calling it, and if you can get that card, they're not gonna call it 4 or 5 times in a row, only 1 or 2, and you can usually get that card a few turns later.
Yeah, you also have to understand when to predict when they have a card, because there are times where experienced players will do things such as make false calls. And what false calls are is they call a card that they don't have and they know you don't have. Therefore, so when you get that card, you're going to ask them for it and they won't have it. Meaning, that can give them an advantage because it gives them a free turn. There's a lot of terminology to it. This is just the really basic surface level kind of stuff. The thing is, when 2 good players play, such as we're doing here, there's a lot of ineffective strategies because we just know each other so well, and the prediction level is kind of simplified. But Cam, what do you like to do when you're playing a player that's not as good as you know isn't as good as you, to kind of tip the odds in your favor?
Well, as you said with false calls are good if you do about 2 or 3 spread out throughout the phases. 1 or 2 per phase is usually the most anyone would do. But you never want to do a double call false call, because that generally, no one really does that, because if you say the same card that you don't have twice in a row, then it's just gonna mess you up a lot, and it's just gonna it's gonna switch around and turn to their favor.
Alright, so another very simple tip that I can give you that I don't see Cameron doing, but I myself do to try and, make myself see better plays is to shuffle my hand. And I mean, I do this because you can see a lot of the plays that you can make if you shuffle your hand. Whereas if you don't, then you're not seeing the full potential of your hand and the combos that you might have, and it just helps me think generally. So Cam, why is it that you don't shuffle your hand?
Well, I find it ineffective, and it is a somewhat good strategy, but even for skilled players such as yourself, anyone who's even good with this strategy, always like right there. There's a slip up. You sometimes get a slip up. It doesn't happen too often if you use the strategy a lot, but still everyone gets a slip up every now and again. One of my strategies I use a lot is I usually never pick from the top, as saw in the early phases. I usually sift through and try and find a card towards the bottom. I tend to think that the better cards are towards the bottom of the pile. They're not usually right on top.
Agreed. I didn't apply that same strategy myself, actually. And something that you have to understand, especially at this point in the game where we're at right now, right now we're getting into the late game phases where it really counts to look at the combos on the table, look at what cards you have in your hand, think about what cards you think your opponent might have, and estimate what's left in the deck. That allows you pretty much to make calls based upon what you think your opponent's going to draw, what you think you're going to draw, and it'll really just help you get your combos off a lot quicker, which is so important in late game. So, I mean, Cam, if you're down in late game, what could you do to come back? I mean, can you even come back at this point?
Well, for me, I barely have anything compared to you having most of the deck in pairs already. There's not much I could do, but if it was a little bit closer, if you just consider the odds of what there is, you can usually just do simple math and figure it out. And then it's still somewhat luck of the draw, but you can still usually figure it out of what you can do to win.
Yeah, this game's coming to a close. I just want you guys all to know that you can expect many more series of Go Fish on my channel, it's one of my favorite games,